the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Natalia Pazzaglia.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about trying to take the uncertainty out of loss. So, Natalia, where can people find you?
Yes, they can find me on my LinkedIn profile, Natalia Pazzaglia, Pazzaglia, Natalia, or on our website, legacycompass.net.
So, talk to me about the inspiration behind your startup, because, like all of us, you've endured some loss.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, unfortunately, I when I was 10, I lost my dad, and then when I was 16, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. So basically, I spent my whole teenager and then young professional life as a secondary informal caregiver and as a professional woman. So I was confronted with this type of challenges. And then 3 years ago, when she died, I was the only one who could take care of all the financial, practical, and emotional challenges and consequences of her death. So
you went through that, which is obviously devastating. But what you've decided to do is to turn that into, you want to turn that into a positive, don't you?
yes, exactly. Because I think what happened was that, of course, like for any loss, it was probably one of the worst, if not the worst, experience of my life. And I think there's nothing we can do about that. I mean, I think it's just we need to acknowledge that any loss, especially of somebody we love, is gonna cost us a lot of emotions and love because we love them. But I think as the time went by, and now it's been 3 years and a half, I also realized that through that loss and with the tools and the mindset I developed, I become a different person. And the person I become is really a more resilient one, somebody who's a problem solver. I was able to start my own startup. And the more I started working on the topic, the more I realized that it's not just me, but if people are supported enough, they have the right tools, they can really turn a loss into something else.
Because I lost my father in November 2022, and you go through this process, and it's like no one, and it's like you're going through it for the first time, as if nobody else in the world has ever had this.
Exactly.
And it's just really, really strange that no one ever seems to want to learn from it or take those learnings and kind of share them with everybody else and share that knowledge. And that's what you've been trying to do, isn't it?
Exactly. And I think as for everything in life, I guess there was a moment in which all the dots of my life connected. And I'm trained as a storyteller, especially in vulnerability. So I've been teaching this. So I had noticed in working with consultants and corporates for the last 6-7 years that when you share vulnerability, you actually become much more closer. But the problem with vulnerability is that you need to have a safe space. So you need to be able to feel that you can share, and when we talk about a taboo, and definitely death is a taboo, there are all these social constraints and social dubs that people are not always ready to overcome. So what we want to do and what we want to show is that you can really build relationship and build a community once you open up. Because since I started doing this job more as a real job, which has been for the last 2 years, I've discovered that everybody has experienced loss. I still have to find one person that cannot tell me about one loss in their life. And once you share that, you become so much closer. And it's something quite magical, because we live in a society where loneliness is one of the biggest social problems. But actually, if we manage to understand our emotion and b trust the others and then share them, we can actually become much more closer to others.
Yeah, one of my friends, I went on his podcast the other day, and he just lost his father, and one of his friends had basically texted him and said, "Welcome to the Dead Dad Club." And actually, he felt, he got really emotional about it because he hadn't just come. It wasn't long before the funeral, but in a way, it's the person was actually being supportive of him, which is to say, actually, I'm not just empathizing. I can be sympathetic in what you're feeling, because I know what it's like. And there's nothing, until it's happened, you really don't know what it's about. You don't know what you're feeling, or you
Exactly.
can't. You can try and imagine, but you actually can't until you felt it. You can't.
You can't
You don't
name
know what
it.
it's like.
You cannot explain it. And also, I think the more we've been doing more than 200 interviews and research, and we are testing constantly our product to develop it better. And what we see is that when you lose somebody, and it can even be the loss of a marriage. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a physical loss, but physical loss definitely is the biggest loss that we
Yeah.
have, because it's you cannot go back from that.
Yes.
You also lose a part of identity, which is what we all are made of. So actually creating a community around it, with that sense of belonging that you mentioned with your friend, sharing about the Dead Dad Club, you are kind of filling a void that is being created. And it might take some time, because of course, every void needs time to get replaced in a way. But definitely we are seeing that there's a huge need for finding new perspective on belonging when you lose somebody.
So tell us about the research that you've been doing.
Yeah, so we started off, in 2021. So my mom died in 2021, and I started talking with people because I felt completely. I felt a level of rage, and I'm very open in saying it, because I think we should talk
I
about.
think an anger is a natural feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But as a society, we tend to completely dismiss it, if not prohibit it. So I was feeling, completely alien, and I was getting all sorts of weird comments, from "you're gonna get stronger," which is the last thing you want to get, to be honest, because you will get stronger, but that's not the right moment to hear that, because you have no intention of getting stronger. It's not choice; it's something that happened to you. So I was feeling, all these negative feelings, and I couldn't find a way to process them. And my way when these things happen to me is trying to find a meaning. And so I started asking people, is it only me? Is it only me, like feeling so sad and so angry, and so feeling this feeling of unfairness towards the world? So basically, I discovered that it was not me. And I did more than 50 interviews. And when I started talking with people, people started to introduce me to other people who had experienced loss, quite naturally, actually. And after 50, actually, I decided to talk with some friends that I knew were, also very sensitive to this topic. And we started a platform in a very simple way. So we started Lasae, LASAE .it, which is the Italian community that we kickstarted. And so this is how we started. And in 2022, we did that exactly 1 year after the death of my mom, which in turn, was a very whimsical moment, because I created something. It was a birth the same day of a death. And I really wanted it to happen with this level of circumstances, because we know, for example, that people, when they experience loss, they then have a very difficult relationship with specific dates in the calendar.
Yeah.
So after that, we kept working. The community grew. Now we have 400 families that are using, our services and content. We developed content on 3 levels. One is practical, so we interviewed professionals to explain what they could be doing in terms of, do I need to think about my bank account? What happened to my bank account if somebody dies? But also, okay, my mom, for example, had a huge collection of lace, and I
Right.
had no idea what to do with that, and of how.
It's an Italian thing, isn't it?
Uh, I guess it was in the past, a little bit less now. But for example, one thing we hear a lot is collection of stamps.
Okay. Yes. My grandfather had a big collection of stamps. Yeah.
Exactly. And for example, one thing that we see happening is that people think that they are very valuable
And they're
because of.
not.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a problem, because they think they have, like, some sort of safety net in selling and getting those 1, 2, 3K, but then they realize that no. So there are all these little, like, financial shocks inside one big financial shock. And so what we did, basically was trying to demystify all the ideas and the different issues that there are around loss, because for the fact that, as you you said before, we don't talk about it, so people don't get to share what actually happened. which is
I think that is a really important point, because I think sometimes, you know, you get here there's a very clear process in terms of organizing the funeral and stuff, but there is all of these things that come with it. And my grandfather's stamp collection was a great example, where my father was basically going through the Stanley Gibbons catalogue, and when he got to £8,000, he hadn't even finished. He thought, this is great, so we ended up taking it to auction, and it got it was £1,200 at auction, because it's only worth what somebody will pay for it.
Exactly. And I think you learn, and again, here comes another very important skill that you learn. Like, for example, through, you know, the settling of the estate of my mom, I learned to be much more market oriented. Like, I learned, for example, that I ended up selling some jewelry to pay the taxes, for example, and get some quick cash. And I learned that I had to get different quotes, and that if there was a brand, I could do it, you know, online, but it would take more time. So, you know, you learn all these things that for sales people or, you know, like for different reasons can be quite normal. But for me, especially as a woman, it was not normal. I didn't got that kind of mindset. Yeah. So there was definitely a learning. And the other learning was also to do scenario planning, because another thing that I noticed and that we keep hearing from stories of people is that there are so many different professionals involved in the, not just the settling the states, but even before, when you get like a diagnosis of cancer, and then suddenly you need to look for caregivers, you need to maybe downsize, you need to, you know, settle certain things, sell some stuff. There are so many different professionals, and if you are not kind of straightforward enough to ask for clear quotes, you have no idea, you know, you never no idea of how much money you will end up paying, because they will never tell you a specific quote. So you end up with all these ranges of that goes from 5K to 25, and you have no idea of how much you're actually going to be spending, which is a big problem at the end.
So in terms of, I'm going to go back to so you've done a whole load of research. So what's that research allowed you to do? What's that data set allowed you to do?
Yeah, it allowed us to develop a platform, basically,
Okay.
which is the first step that we are launching now at the moment, and it's live and ready. You will find it at legacycompass.net. Basically, in the platform, there are 3 paths. One path is where we ask you questions. They are developed with storytelling, so they are softer, because we have seen that you need to ask this question to yourself first as a reflection, and then you can ask them to your older parents, to your partner if diagnosed, etc. So the first part of the platform is actually helping you to create the, you know, 10, 20 most important thing emotionally and practically that you should care about at this stage, you as a diagnosed person or as somebody who's supporting a diagnosis or aging person. And they go from, you know, making sure you know where the important documents are, to asking them, okay, what's your best memory? What would you like to be remembered for? So they're both emotional and practical. The second point is that we provide you with a pool of professionals. So let's say you find out that there are debts, or for some reasons there are some things to sort out with finances. We can assist you with financial planners that are trained to assist in end of life, because it turns out that it's a very emotional moment. So you will end up feeling quite dismissed if you talk with somebody that didn't got a training, a more empathetic way of dealing with you. So we are creating a pool of professionals that can do that for you. And the third point is the community, because as you started off, you know, with your friend, we go back there. We have seen that there are 2 in the research. We saw that there are 2 ways of acting. One are people like me, for example. I need to talk. I'm Italian. I'm very talkative. I'm also, you know, somebody that likes to share, and then I will get things done. If you don't make me talk with somebody that can understand, I will just close up and I will not be able to do. But many other people, especially men, I have to say, without, you know, gender bias, but in general, it's something that we see more in men, want to do things first, so get things done, the practicalities, and then they will maybe talk about emotions.
Right. And where are you so far in terms of the pro? You know, so you're putting together Legacy Compass. So where are you now? You've come up with those questions, but there must be a whole load of stuff back end that you've got to kind of develop. because we talked in the past about estate planning, power of attorney, all the emotions you're going to have, maybe communities and things like that. And for most of us, the whole thing is quite overwhelming.
Yes. So what we do is that we take the overwhelm out of you. We basically process it for you. So we are, as I said, we have found the priority list of things that, depending on your profile, you want to do first, because we know that it's super emotional. So we're going to tell you the first things, and we can do it even with cars, which are also the same question that you will find on the platform. So depending on your situation, whether you live close to your parents or not, whether you have siblings, or if everything has been sorted out or not, we will tell you the thing you need to do first. And then, as the time goes on and you familiarize with this process, we will tell you the others, the other ones. And to do that, we have continuously tested how people reacted with this question, and which were the most important and pressing needs. And that's one side. Second side is that we are partnering up with charities, because we know that when something happens, and as you well said as well, with social selling, when uncertainty and confusion come out, we trust people that we trust. So we don't turn to Google. I mean, we might go to Google for a quick research, but at the end of the day, we're going to trust people that really care about us. And in our case, it's either friends or charities. Because cancer charities have been supporting you probably in the journey, so you trust them. So we are partnering up with them to create a distribution channel, basically for Legacy Compass, and that's one side. The second thing we want to do is really change the culture around this, and change also the workplace, because there's a big consequences when you don't treat an employee well during the preparation for loss or end of life. So we are also working with corporates, for example.
So if we step out of talking about the platform and talk about, ultimately you've had to go, I know that you've been and got funding from people, so there has to be some level of monetization. From what you told me, this is about what you're looking to do is sell this to companies to help. So just like an employee may have a private health scheme, it's about selling this to the employees so that when they go in, when they have an end of life situation, there is somebody that they can turn to, and this resource pool that can help them. Because ultimately, what we don't want is the employee to spend lots of time out of work. We want them at we want them at their desk doing what they do. So this is about helping them, isn't it?
Exactly. So we are selling it to corporates. So definitely, because we know that in terms of sick leave or people that quit their job, which is actually more than 40% if they've not been treated well during that time when they got bereaved, and they actually quit their job, and especially in position of management and leadership. And so we help them navigate that process, and we facilitate this kind of very difficult conversation inside a corporate, because they might not feel safe to have this conversation with their chief people officer or their line manager. So that's how we're doing it. And also we are launching a crowdfunding campaign. It's our way to co-create some of the services of the platform. So if you have a look at the website, again, legacycompass.net, you'll see that you can actually pick some perks that go from workshops with rituals that can help you think about your family tradition and also how you want to be remembered in end-of-life arrangement, or even family recipes. So, the cooking side that also goes back to finance.
Well, Italian again, isn't it?
Yeah, bringing in the Italian side, I guess. So we want to do that because we really want to test what people want and want to see in the platform.
So what recipe is your mum passed to you then?
Well, crostata,
right,
which is a cake with marmalade.
Right. So where are you in terms of, because I know that you've won an award, haven't you, with a startup organization, and so where are you? Are you a tenth of the way through the process, or are you 80% of the way through developing what you?
I think it's a never-ending process. We are now raising funds to develop to develop a better version of the platform. So we are seeking for both, corporates that want to work with us, but we are also raising investment. So we are especially raising from business angels at this stage, and we plan to raise 250 in the next 6 months. And we are also doing this co-creation reward-based crowdfunding campaign to test the market and see what are the products that people really want to see in our platform.
So if there's anybody who knows any contemporary HR strategic HR leaders, or there are any strategic HR leaders watching, you'd like them to get in touch?
Absolutely. Please do get in touch at my LinkedIn, again, Natalia Pazzaglia. And also, if you are also like working in a big charity or working for their corporate programs or for their legacy programs, please do also get in touch. And if you're interested in the crowdfunding and you want to hear more, we are also looking for ambassadors to help us spread the word about the services that we are building.
Excellent. Natalia, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this. It's for me, it's just a fascinating subject. And having been through that process, until you get there, you kind of don't realize how difficult it is.
No.
And what you're doing, I mean, it's just an amazing legacy that you're leaving for your mother and creating for your mother. I'm just, I'm just so I don't know, honored and speechless for having you on and coming and talking about it and being so courageous about basically putting this up, because this isn't a walk in the park. This would have been a lot of pain, and you are so courageous at basically doing this.
I mean, we really need the help now because has been, bootstrapping for a year, meaning no salary for a year. So it's getting difficult to pay salaries. So that's why, we really need to raise funds. But yeah, I completely believe it. And this changed my life, I guess, in different ways. And I guess my mom, she was called Maria Vittoria. I think she would laugh at me, because I think she spent her whole life thinking I would get some normal institutional job. She even saw me in diplomacy, and now I'm here launching the startup in some crazy way. So
thank you so much for coming on and talking about it. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.